Here's an interesting fact. After John F. Kennedy's assassination in 1963, the American people adjusted their perceptions of the former president. Although Kennedy was elected with just under 50% of the vote, almost 2/3 of all Americans vividly remembered voting for him when they were asked about it after the assassination. Now, how is that possible? I mean, memory can be a tricky thing. There are good reasons for insisting on safeguards when it comes to our specific memories from the past, especially, not in the least, our memories of personal prophecies spoken over us. Well, congratulations, you've received a prophetic word. Someone, perhaps a friend, a relative, a stranger, received a message from God for you. They listened to the prompting, they prayed about it, and then they did their very best to communicate to you in their own words what they felt God was saying to you. This is a miracle that the God who created the universe, who put the stars in the sky, who created everything that you can see, the eternal, everlasting God, sent a message to you, directly to you. We must never take these prophecies for granted. We must never let this become routine. So it's a good thing that you are watching an In Favor video series called Treasuring Your Words from Heaven, What to Do and Not to Do with Your Prophetic Words. We are walking you through 14 ways to respond to a personal prophecy. People that are asking, well, now that I've got this prophetic word, what am I supposed to do with it? What are my responsibilities? What comes next? And if you're not answering those questions, you should be, because when God speaks to us, a response is usually necessary. We have a part to play in the fulfillment of our own prophetic words. So this video describes response number 1. The very first thing you should do when you receive a prophetic word, the initial action you take should be to record it. Record the prophecy in some way. This is simple, but it's extremely important. As you are receiving a prophetic word, record it with your device or ask someone else to do it while you're listening to the word, and then transcribe it later. Or write it down as it happens if it's brief, but if it's longer, then jot down the main points as soon as possible afterwards while it's still fresh in your mind. But however you do it, be sure that you know what was actually said. Keep a record of the word and save it for future reference. Jennifer LeClaire says this: if you aren't keeping a record of your prophetic words, you should start. When you receive a personal prophecy from a prophet, or when the Lord speaks to your heart and gives you a prophetic dream or vision, you should record it. Sean Boltz agrees. I can't emphasize enough, he says. Part of good stewardship is collecting the information and knowing where it is. Keep track of it. Give yourself easy access. If it's a recording, keep it in a file where you can hopefully compile a list of recordings over time. If it's a written word or email, keep it accessible, somewhere that you can find it if you were looking. But no matter how you do it, he says, keep a record and a backup. Now, speaking of Sean Boltz, he is a well-known author and TV host and minister, and he has a nationwide reputation for very powerful and accurate prophetic words. In March, of 2019, he hosted a night in the prophetic with Sean Boltz at New Wineskin Ministries in Indianapolis. Along with other church volunteers, my wife and I and some of our friends served as greeters and ushers and door guards and crowd control and whatever else was needed. The large auditorium in that church building was packed with hundreds and hundreds of prophetic-minded people. There was an excitement in the air, and the crowd was expectant and attentive. Now, it had been announced that Sean was going to give some prophetic words at the very last session late in the evening. But by that time, my friends and I, maybe mostly I, was just exhausted. I mean, we'd been setting up and carrying and standing and serving since the afternoon. And just before that final session began, we were told that our responsibilities were now complete, and if we wanted to, we could just go in and sit in the back and enjoy the session. Well, we knew that there was going to be a mad rush toward the cars at the end of this session. And the parking lot only had one exit onto one lane that could only go one way on a very major avenue in Indianapolis. And we were just tired. And we looked at this, nearly 1,000 people. And we said, what are the chances of us getting a prophetic word sitting in the back with 1,000 prophetic people there? What are the chances that if we stay for another hour or two, we'll get a prophetic word? Well, to make a long story shorter, we all agreed to leave. And so we made a U-turn, no traffic yet at all, a U-turn out onto 38th Street, turned around and headed toward home. And then we were gleefully congratulating ourselves, patting ourselves on the back, and trying to estimate how long it was going to take all of those people to get out of that parking lot and get home that evening. Within a minute or two, my phone dinged. The text said this: "Hey Jim, thought you should know, Sean Bolts is giving you a prophetic word right now." Feeling very foolish, I relayed the message to my wife sitting beside me and my friends who were in the front driving. The inside of the car became very quiet in our shame. Then everyone's phone rang. All at once, multiple times. People that we knew who were there, the people that didn't leave early, they were recording the prophetic word for us and now sending the message to us. And even now, years later, we meet people who were at that conference, and when they heard the story, they say, "Oh, you were the couple that left early." Yes, I'm afraid we were. Well, this is a partial transcript of the prophetic word. "Is there a Jim and Sharon here?" Voices from the audience said, "Yeah, they just left." "Are there any of their friends here?" "Yes." "Did he write a book?" "Yes." "Is it a prophetic book? What's it about?" And the voices say, "He wrote a book about the prophecies over Indiana." Sean said, "Oh, that is so cool. The Lord showed me he is commissioning a fresh unction over them, that what they did with that project, they're going to do again. And it's going to be like training wheels. They're going to do something that is going to be broader. And I saw their book being held by political leaders. And I saw their book being held by business leaders. So there's something. People have been praying for people in offices and occupations of influence to be able to have a resource of prayer and prophecy. I feel like the Lord is saying there's something about the book that's going to touch us, and it's going to affect the way that they've given and blessed people with this book. It's going to help. The Lord is going to bless." Now, I want to stress how accurate Sean's word was. He predicted what they did with that project, they're going to do it again. At this time, I have written 4 additional books on Indiana prophecies and declarations. He declared, "I saw their book being held by political leaders, and I saw their book being held by business leaders." Both of those have come true. And Sean prophesied, it's going to be like training wheels, and they're going to do something that's going to be broader. As I was typing this, I realized that the video that you're listening to right now and watching, based on a book that I'm writing right now, is the fulfillment of that prophecy given back in 2019. This is the first time I have written anything broader than just my state. This is for anyone who receives prophetic words, not just for people in Indiana. Sean was exactly right. I also want to stress that I am able to relay Sean's words to you with precision only because we had friends who were on the ball that night, and they had their recording apps ready. And thanks to them, I know exactly what the Lord said to Sean for us. The key was recording the prophetic word for later reference. So, enough of my embarrassing failures. You might ask it, but if I'm worried about recording it and saying, hold on, and holding out my phone or taking notes, doesn't that take away from the spontaneity of the event? After all, I'm in the moment, I'm having a bosom blessing, I'm having a liver quiver here, and I don't want to think about those kind of office things. Well, or even, why should I take the trouble? Because I'll just remember it. This is going to be so good that I'll just never forget it. Well, the truth is, you won't remember every word of that prophecy. Not for months, not for years, not for decades. And all the other words and all the other prophetic words that you've received, all those other prophecies full of words, some of them decades ago. Maybe hundreds for some of you have received hundreds of prophetic words. You can't possibly remember all of those unless you have them in some kind of permanent form. So if God goes to this kind of trouble to get you the message, don't you think that we should keep track of what he says? Prophetic words are not random messages from fortune cookies. They are more than supportive wishes from friends. To receive a prophecy is a big deal. This is serious stuff. So don't be casual about it. Don't take it for granted. Don't think, oh, that was nice. I feel better now. I'll just wait till next week, till the next one comes along. It may not be inspired scripture, but the God who created the universe is sending you a personal message through someone else. Again, let me say that again. The God who created the universe is sending you a personal message through someone else. A prophetic word is more precious than gold. So record it. Make sure you record it. Write it down. Have it in permanent form. Rejoice in it. Be thankful for it. And be a good steward of it. Now, how can you make this response your own? Well, just keep in mind that voice recorder apps are usually free, and most of them are quite easy to use. And have your device on and have the app open when you know that you're going into a prophetic atmosphere, when you know you're going to that worship service where the prophetic words are going to be flying, or you're going to that conference where they're going to be all over the place. Have it ready so that once it starts, you can push that button. If you don't want to take the time to write it all out, well, there are other apps that can transcribe audio to text for you. Just make sure they do it accurately. Compare the two. So my question is, how have you been managing your prophecies so far? And what if you haven't been recording those prophetic words spoken over you? Well, you probably remember some of the words and some of the phrases from those, so jot them down or type them out right now. When you turn this off, go right and directly do that. Ask God to bring others to mind and then record whatever you remember. And it's never too late to begin right now keeping track of your prophecies and keeping a record of all of them. Next video, the response that absolutely has to follow this one, the recording of the prophecy, because without it, you probably won't get to all the others. See you then.